Somebody buys a house. A year later, that house is worth about $17,000 more than they paid for it. And if they sell it that day, they lose about 19,000. Same house, same year. It went up and they are down. Nobody stole anything. Nothing went wrong. That's just what the math does. So let's run it properly. Two people, same job, same savings, same house. Right now, the median American home that actually sells goes for about $434,000 at today's 30-year rate of 6.67%, with 20% down. The mortgage payment is $2,234 a month. And for our model, renting that same house runs about $2,600. So, $2,600 a month, gone forever, or $2,234 a month, and at the end of it, you own a house. Why would anyone rent? Hold up. That $2,234 isn't the cost of owning a house. It's the cost of the loan. The house also wants property tax. It wants insurance, and it wants maintenance, because roofs and water heaters do not care about your budget. Add those in, and in our model, year one costs the owner about $3,136 a month. The renter is paying $2,600. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is where the mortgage payment actually goes. Because the reason buying feels obviously right is that a mortgage sounds like a savings account with a house attached. You're not spending, you're building equity. Over the first year, our buyer sends the bank $26,800. $23,000 of that is interest. $3,700 is equity. 86% of the first year's mortgage payments never touch the house. That's what a mortgage is at the start. You're not buying a house yet. You're renting $350,000 from a bank and slowly being allowed to keep a little of it. Now add the tax, the insurance, and the maintenance back on top. Out of every dollar our buyer spends on housing in year one, about 90 cents does not become home equity. Not wasted. That's the wrong word. Insurance buys you insurance. A roof buys you a roof. It just doesn't come back to you when you sell. 90 cents on the dollar, leaving the same way rent leaves. And yes, before anyone says it, rent is 100 cents on the dollar. 90 is better than 100. That's a real advantage, and it's the honest case for buying. Except we've been staring at one side of the ledger this entire time. Because before month one, the buyer had to do something the renter didn't. 20% down, $86,820. Closing costs on top of that, call it another $8,700. $95,500 handed over before a single payment. The renter still has it. And in a fair comparison, the renter doesn't hide it under a mattress. They invest it. So we are not comparing a rent payment to a mortgage payment. We never were. We're comparing two balance sheets. One rule, and it cuts both ways. Whenever renting is the cheaper month, the renter invests the difference. If owning becomes cheaper later, the buyer invests that difference instead. Nobody gets free money. Which brings us back to the person who lost $19,000 on a house that went up. The house did gain about $17,000. That part was real. But they had already handed over $95,000. They'd spent a year on interest, tax, insurance, and maintenance, 90 cents of every dollar of it never coming back. And the moment they sold, the sale took its own cut. The house made money. The owner didn't. Those are two completely different sentences, and almost nobody separates them. Which is the real danger of a short stay. Mine has an entry fee and an exit fee, and they both land in full no matter how briefly you stayed. Meanwhile, the mortgage is at its most interest heavy, and appreciation has barely had time to compound. In our model, selling after 5 years costs about $37,000, roughly 39% of everything the house gained in those 5 years. You earned the appreciation. You just handed back a third of it on the way out the door. So renting wins. Look at it. The renter never handed over $95,000, so that money has been invested since day one. The buyer spent a year mostly paying interest, and if they leave early, the sale takes another bite on the way out. Short stays punish the buyer, every time. The internet had it backwards. Renting wins. Hold up. Because we've only run the first few years, and the buyer's real weapon doesn't show up until later. It's this. That mortgage payment never moves. $2,234. Next year, year 10, year 29, the same number for 3 decades, because that is what a fixed rate is. Rent doesn't do that. If rent grew at our model 3%, By year 30, the renter would be paying somewhere around $6,000 a month. The buyer would still be paying $2,234. And then it stops completely. Month 360, the loan hits zero and the payment disappears. The renter's payment never disappears. Two quieter things are helping too. The loan slowly flips, so more of each payment lands in the house instead of the bank, and the buyer earns appreciation on the whole $434,000 house, not on the $87,000 they put down. That's leverage. It magnified the gain. It would have magnified a loss just as fast. That's the case for buying. It's a strong one. It just takes years to show up. So run the whole race. The renter jumps ahead early because of the $95,000, not because rent is cheap. The buyer claws back through appreciation and principal. And somewhere in there, the two lines cross. In our base model, around the 5th year. There it is. Plant the flag. Hold up. Change one number. Make the comparable rent slightly lower, the kind of difference you never notice on a listing, and the flag slides past year 6. Assume homes appreciate more slowly than we did past year 17. Put the same house in a state with high property taxes and expensive insurance. The flag walks off the end of the chart, 30 years, and it never crosses at all. Push appreciation the other way, and the flag comes back in under 3 years. Same house, same buyer, same mortgage, and the answer moved from under 3 years to never. So here's the thing nobody says out loud. There's no break-even year. There's a break-even for you. And look at what moved that flag. Appreciation, investment returns, rent growth, property taxes. Nobody knows any of those. Anyone who tells you otherwise is guessing, confidently. So stop asking whether renting is throwing money away. Ask 3 better questions. What would this exact house rent for? What does owning it really cost every month? Not the mortgage, the whole thing. And then the one that decides it. How long am I actually going to live here? Because nobody knows what homes will do next. Nobody knows what your investments will do. Rents and mortgage rates can move before you've even signed. But how long you'll be in that house, that isn't a forecast. That's your job, your family, your plans, your life. It's the one number in this entire equation you might actually know something about. And it's the one that decides the answer.